Hello and welcome to Scrapbooking Station. Quick card video. So I've got a quick card design that's really versatile. So you need a tag shape and some pretty patterned papers. I'm going to put the camera over my shoulder. We'll get started. Let's start with the basics for this card design, and this one's going to be a relatively large card. So I've got an 8 by 4.5 inch card blank that I made. So you start with a 9 inch wide by 8 inch tall, score it at 4.5. It's going to be a tall book fold. And you're going to need a mat. So I'd suggest a solid mat. So I'm going to use a solid mat. I came in 1/4 inches shorter in both directions, and that color is going to depend on your two pattern papers. So really kind of key for this card design are the two complementary patterns. So as it happens, I've got one sheet of pattern paper that's just broken up here. Of course, you can use two complementary patterns and attach them. The other thing is going to be some sort of border. So I've got a border that I can kind of position, and this pattern is about 1/4 of your total length of this, and so this is another 1/4 inch. So what are we at? I'm at 4 wide by 7 for this total piece, two patterns of paper. And then the last thing are going to be 2 tags. So we're going to use 2 tags for the focal, and they're going to come something like this. Of course, you're going to want something on top of your focal, and so I've got a die cut. And that's going to position, let me see, this is the full die cut. I just make another one for little extra pieces. This is something from Tattered Lace. It's called Charisma. So actually what it is digital images that you then die cut, and they look real life. Anyway, so I've got all these pieces. Before I start putting in anything together, of course I'm kind of eyeballing it now, but I'm thinking about how I'm going to embellish. So the first thing I'm going to want is a salutation. Maybe I'm going to break them up a little bit more like this. So I think I'm going to use a Just For You up in this corner, and I'm going to heat emboss it. This is actually a shiny brochure paper, or glossy brochure paper is what I printed it on, so it's got a little bit of shine, and so I'm going to use shiny kind of embellishing. So I'm going to heat emboss my salutation there. So let's get this. You know what? I want shine on this also, so I'm just going to cut a piece of acetate and put it behind there so it'll flash back. And I'll probably use some Nuvo drops. So let me come back with some of this assembly done and we'll continue. Now I've come back at this point because I'm already starting to think about the inside. So I've got my focal tag and then the tag behind it. And I am going to loop some ribbon pieces, so I've got those ready. But what I'm thinking about now is what am I going to do on the inside? And so what I like to do sometimes is just take a photo. So I took a photo of this back panel, and all I did was fade it. And if you work in digital, probably the easiest way to start fading something would be to increase the brightness one tick and then decrease the contrast. And so you get a nice faded back panel. And then I'm just going to use smaller pieces for the inside. So this is going to be a birthday card. I've got 2 smaller tags that I'm going to use and then situate it like that. Now I've already made 2 cards, or I've already made the second card, so it's all put together, and of course I'm going to take photos. I decided to decoupage or layer up a couple of my additional elements. See where I tacked in the bows, and then on the inside, this is the finished piece that needs to get situated like this. But see, I've got the 2 tags, another primary salutation in this case, and then some of these leftover die cut pieces. Of course, I'm going to make 2 envelopes, and as I said, I'm going to leave photos before we move into our next project. The only other thing I want to talk about is some of these other die cuts. So I've got a Chatsworth border, also from Tattered Lace. The tags, I'm using 10 tags and labels from Hot Off the Press for Paper Wishes. I've got a Chinese die for my sentiment. This is the Happy Birthday. And then I just borrowed a bow from a Stampin' Up! Cutting die set for balloons. So anyway, I'm going to leave photos. I'm going to move right into the next project, so we'll look at those materials. In the second project, I'm going to turn things around. So I've got this wide book fold, and it started out as 11 by 4 inch piece of cardstock, so the card is going to be smaller. I scored it at 4 inches, and it's going to be a cutaway. because I want to do more with the interior. And so if I'm going to do more with the interior, there's really no point in covering it up, especially since, again, I'm going to have 2 tags. So I handmade these tags out of rectangles and just clipped the corners, added some hardware, and so it's probably going to go something like this across here. I switched my pattern papers to a masculine pattern set. This is Evanstown. It comes from Paper Wishes. So again, got lots. It's double-sided, lots of patterns to choose from. And the focal is going to be a motorcycle. Now the full motorcycle I've cut out of Miri, and that's going to go on the inside. And then I've got this partial that I'm going to fit onto this tag. So a couple things. Already kind of picked an all-over pattern. I've got this as my specialty band. And then on the inside, I've got this other pattern. Instead of just picking one of the patterns out of the collection, I just pieced together 3 pieces because I wanted kind of the illusion of this road. So I've got my motorcycle kind of tilted up. I also added a sentiment, and so there's a couple things as I assemble this that I want to keep in mind. The first is I want the sentiment to be able to be seen from the front of the card when it's closed. So as I position my tags, I want this free and clear. And the other thing is I want this to be a little bit of a reveal. And so as I position my tags on the front, I'm going to want to cover that up until the card is opened. So those are the 2 things. I want to do a little tip and trick on these tag corners. Anytime you are free cutting corners, and whether it's 2 corners on a tag or 4 corners for a mat, it's probably easier just to go ahead and measure. So I know I came in 1/2 inch from each side, and rather than have to measure each corner, all I did was use this then as my template for cutting. So I positioned it right on top of the rectangle, came here, flipped my card here, and did that on all 4 tags. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether you're creating a mat with a freehand corner, or whether the corner is straight, or whether you've got a pattern to it. So just something to keep in mind. The other thing, well, first as I started positioning this around, most of what's going to be here is going to be covered, and so I want my specialty band to be on the outside so that you can see most of it when the card is closed. I added a couple of sequins here inside my hardware, just made it a little more neat. And then the other thing is I put on these tags, I want to make sure when I attach them, I'm only attaching to this front flap. So I don't want any glue out beyond these tags. So as we finish up, of course I'm making 2. So I do have my finished card. And this is the way it turned out. So closed, really cool. Hogs and Kisses. Hog is another name for a Harley Davidson motorcycle, so I thought that would be appropriate. And it could be kind of any all-occasion card for motorcycle enthusiasts, so girl or guy. Very gender neutral. Okay, I'm going to leave photos of this, and I've got one last project to share. In this last variation, I am back with that same tag shape. So my 10 tags and trims. It also comes with coordinating stamps, and so I've chosen to do a Christmas card this time, and I use this poinsettia stamp. So I heat embossed it using black embossing powder, and that's from Stampin' Up. I'm going to color this and create this as my focal tag. Papers I'm using this time is Chalkboard Christmas from Paper Wishes, so again, double-sided, lots of patterns to choose from. Like I often do when it comes down to variation number 3 or 4 or 5, however many I'm going to make, I'm a little bit further along. So I went back to a tall book fold, but this time instead of moving my papers from bottom to top, I'm moving them from left to right. And I'm going to create a border, so I've got some die cuts. This is kind of like a holly leaf, small holly leaf that I just cut multiple times. And then I'm creating these kind of pseudo poinsettias that are going to go like this. Now my tags, I've already colored in a little bit, and I backed it with a black tag, and so this is going to position something like this. I just want to catch a little bit of that. And I've got some gold Nouveau drops to accentuate the gold in the middle of the poinsettias. So I've got plenty of those. I've also done the inside already, because with this pattern paper collection, it's really easy to do. And the only thing really of note here is that when I cut out the black tag for the front, or for my focal, so this piece, I just cut it out of a piece of paper that I've already sized, the right size for my interior. And this paper comes with a bunch of actually sentiments on a single sheet, so it's a really interesting kind of chalkboard sheet. So I'm just going to finish it up like this. Anyway, so I didn't get that all on there, and actually I'm not going to be back, so I've left you, I'll leave photos of that. But before I leave, of course I did one more because I had to wait for these to dry. So this little extra project is actually done from a piece from a little book from Hunky Dory. So just an image, and this is probably the easiest of all, which is why I kind of thought I had to include it because, like I said, I love designs that can use your little books. So all kind of same is actually this time we're almost back to the original sketch if you were to sketch it out. So instead of pattern papers, I've dry embossed with two different embossing folders, some adorable scoreable. I've got my tags. This time I cut my tags using the Sizzix Bigsy die. So I've got, the right size and shape for my card. I've got a tattered lace cutting die across here, and then another cutting die here, and just a ribbon. On the inside, this came with inserts, so I've got a blank insert on the inside. And I will leave photos of this one also. So very simple. Like I said, image and two pattern papers. Of course, your pattern papers, this time I've got it stamped. Of course, we saw this one where we're using motorcycles, kind of turned it around, made use of that interior for the outside of the card, and then, of course, the original piece. So anyway, I hope you took something with you can use in your own card making, and I thank you for watching.